righty, yo. No apologies. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dr. Guy Speaks. Come make we talk, ayo. Tonight, girls, guys, we are going to talk with Dr. Khnuma Simmonds. But before that, I want to introduce you to my fabulous, he's a host, he's not a co host, my fabulous co host, Dr. Michael Wright.
Hey,
Tonight, yes, say
I'm
hi
here
to the
tonight.
people.
The incomparable, the world famous as far as our podcast,
Circle, right.
Dr. Khnuma. So I'm excited about this one.
Well, give me a second. Give me a second. Let me introduce her to the world so people
Yes,
know who we have in our midst here tonight. So, Dr. Khnuma, PhD in Advanced Studies in Human Behavior. The girl understand how things are supposed to go. She is the Executive Director of Hope Inc. This providing entrepreneurial wellness and financial empowerment services to survivors of domestic violence or domestic and sexual violence. This is right up my alley. She is also the founder of Girlfriendism International, and I was a part of one of her retreat on last year, and I heard I went to Bali. So go on, empowering women globally through fashion. See how nice and cute she look. Fitness, wellness, business, travel, philanthropy, and love. When she greets me, this is how she say, "Hi, my love." Always calms me. My girlfriend closet, St. Croix owner. It's culturally inspired, designed by and for women in the U.S. Virgin Islands and beyond. So what this is really is a boutique with local entrepreneurs who are women, artists, clothes, fashion, dress, arts and craft, earrings, all of it. And it's fabulous. I have a few of her pieces. My girlfriend closet is also in St. Thomas and it's co-owned. Okay, she have soca, a Caribbean dance fitness, and that girl could move her waist aisle. She is the choreographer and founder of soca. She is the mother of maybe not mix up the boy name, the young man name. Those two lovely, wonderful names. Khnuma, please pronounce the name.
She got two.
Please pronounce the name.
Nope. She got two, and then she got a husband in the making. She still got him in the oven. I heard.
Okay, all right. Khnuma, can you pronounce your children's name, please, so I don't mess their names up?
Taino, like the Indian, and Canoe.
Okay, Taino, King.
Yes. And Kanoom. That's my senior. That's my junior right there. So
yes.
And he's Kanoom. Yes.
Okay, and Kanoom. All right. And her fiance is Sean Williams. Proud Virgin Islander and daughter of Elroy and Carmen Simmonds. I have not met Elroy. I've heard of him, a local artist of St. Croix, but Carmen is a fabulous mother to everybody that she meets. So, okay. So that's without any further ado, Dr. K, you are welcome to our stage. We open the floor for you, and I know that Michael cannot wait to take it over. So here we go. Here we go.
For having me.
You are welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael.
So if you would like to say anything, that's okay. So I'll give you like 22 seconds, and then I need to get into, because I've watched the videos, I did some research on the websites. I talked.
Well then let's just get into it. Let's just get into it.
Yes. So first. So here's the big thing. I want to set the stage because you have had multiple interviews. You do a lot of different things. We know about your entrepreneurial background. We know about the things that you're doing, these communities, that type of thing. And I want to talk about that at some point. But by way of introduction, before we even get into any of our segments about resilience, I want to hear what hasn't been talked about yet, which is your advice for women like Dr. Gail-Ann Guy, who are really trying to get back out here and need to recognize ain't no out here. Like,
Mm.
Wait, so you hear what the topic? You hear what the topic was for tonight? Love finds her minding her own business. Did you see
that's what
that?
I'm good too. I want the advice right away. Like, what's the takeaway right away?
Right? Love finds her minding her own business. Girl. Mhm.
Oh my goodness. So advice for a girlfriend like Dr. Guy who is trying to enter into the fishing pond.
No, I'm not trying.
Or are
I
we
don't
talking
want to.
about the resilient pond? Because Dr. Guy is giving me like, honey, I'm over here drinking water and minding my own business. I ain't interested in no pond. But Dr. Guy, you want to know what my advice would be if and when she's ready for that.
Let me tell you. See, she has this idea that she should get into that pond, and I'm saying leave that alone.
Yeah.
Like she believes in love, in other words. And I'm like, yeah, stop doing that. It's a failed game. I'm the there's no love out there person. She's the no, you just need to find it.
There is love, and love finds you.
Well, that is definitely an interesting perspective. So I do think that love is something that finds you. So I don't think that you need to go out seeking it, right? I think that in loving oneself, then you attract love. It will come to you. So what I would say is whether a woman, man, indifferent is trying to get into the pond, what I would say is let the pond come to you. Be your highest version of yourself, loving all this, and know that you're all that, right? Focus on the things that truly bring out your gifts, that brings out your personality. And that is what is going to radiate to others who need to be in your space, right? So I think that when it comes to the dating scene, the pond scene, there's so many different things to consider, and it can become complex, which is why the only thing we're experts in are self. And that's what we want to master first. And in the process of mastering self and understanding what it is to exercise love with self, then everything else will rise into place. So I think that is probably the advice I would have is be anxious for nothing, right? That's be anxious for nothing, and know that when you focus on yourself, you won't have to go looking for it because it's going to attract that energy.
Amen. I can't tell you how correct you are, Dr. K. So I am on this journey of rediscovering self. And I think my whole life, I promise you, as soon as I know to wash, cook, and clean, it was for somebody else, taking care of my younger siblings, helping my mother out in the house. Then I couldn't wait to have my own children to be that for them, right? And even when they were grown, I was able and capable, I was still trying to find ways to pull myself to connect to them. But in this season, can I tell you, I posted a thing on Facebook for spite just to see how people would react. And I said, I found love. And I am finding what it is to rediscover the love that Gail needs. Oh God, it is such a phenomenon to learning and to restart, to remodel that, learning how to love you and be happy with you. I mean, stock, barrel, and all, right? And
all versions of
you're right. Now that I think of it, I know you're right. When you start loving yourself, you start giving off that energy. And you attract people that are healed, that are whole, that understand what loving self is about, right? In this space right here, Dr. Wright, trust me, boy, I am all in love with Gail. For the first time, I could acknowledge it. For the first time, I understand that process, and I'm happy with it. I'm loving on me, sir. So I encourage you to love on you too, Dr. Wright.
Yeah.
I'm not sensing a little shade. I'm just saying, what's going on? But okay.
Yeah,
we did it the whole time. We did it the whole time.
Are you trying to push her into the pond?
No, we did it the whole time. This is how we keep it lively. This is how we keep it lively. Yeah.
I'm telling her, get a nice corner. A glass of wine, the Jesus version that he turned into wine.
Amen, honey.
Right, that version. And maybe a cat, or a bird or something, and just enjoy your life. Like that's
and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I promise. I am enjoying the time that Gail has with herself. Yes.
As long as you are.
Beautiful.
All right.
That's beautiful.
So we've got 3 segments in here, and this podcast, we want to get into these segments. And the first segment is about resilience. And it begins with this idea of fostering resilience. And so I'm looking to hear the story. We had Sean on, so I don't really care about the entrepreneurial journey. I don't care about your family stuff. I want to hear the romance story and the how you got back into that kind of thing. I'm looking for that resilience, but I know Dr. Gail may have some other, more enlightened perspectives from you.
Yes.
But no, that's what I want to hear. The resilience begins with the story. So tell us what the story is that begins this for you.
So I think two particular seasons in my life come up, right? And so it's so funny how everything is kind of interwoven. So I'm going to try to stray away from the entrepreneurship side, but it may kind of trickle in a little bit. But one of the resilience factors, what started for me was, and I've spoken about this, so this isn't particularly new, but you never know, it's a new audience, is my experience with domestic violence and sexual violence. So I am a survivor of both crimes. And in both instances, there were people that I knew, who I trusted, who I let my guard down with, who I would have never seen it coming, whom I couldn't prepare for. And so that chapter of my life, and it's interesting how they happen closely to different people. There was this cycle of trauma. There's just a lot of trauma going on. However, I think that has impacted my journey in the nonprofit world, why I'm very passionate about working with survivors, right? And so with everything in life, there is this yin and the yang. And so there is this understanding that there's going to be the good and there's going to be the not so good. It's what do you want to do with it? How do we find that balance and that harmony? And so for me, I think that resilience story started out with that experience with domestic violence and sexual violence. And then me sitting with that and saying, well, what do I want to do with this experience? And so that has resulted in several things. It has resulted in this, I don't want to say career, my passion work with survivors. So 8 years I spent as the director of a domestic violence agency, and then now having my own nonprofit branch. But the process for me personally, it is a journey. I was going to say was, but it is. I feel like I've definitely come out to the other side, right? Experiencing very traumatic relationships to now where I've made this 180. And I can say that I am truly in a very healthy and happy and loving relationship. The process from here to there, there's so much resilience involved. Like, where do I even begin to explain how do I get over the hump, right? Not even from one point to the next, because there's this constant journey when you are a survivor, where certain things can trigger you and it takes you right back, right? Certain experiences can occur and it takes you right back. And so that bounce back is where that resilience, I really have to tap into that. In those moments, I think whenever I find myself triggered or super upset, I have to tap into that resilience and ask myself, well, what is this? Is this a legitimate response, or is the response tied to something from my past? And so I have to go through that process often, not as often as before, but every time I have those uncomfortable feelings, I go through that process for me to be able to decipher, am I responding from my traumatized self, or am I responding from my healed self? And so that is a journey. It is truly a journey. So that is the first experience. And then, of course, I think the second is now coming over to the other side of it, where I am in this healthy relationship. Before Sean and I met, I was in a pretty fierce relationship that I thought was going to evolve into something more. And then what felt like out of the blue for me, that ended. And I almost feel like in that experience, it was almost just as traumatizing, if not more, from my domestic violence and sexual violence experiences. And what I realized is because those wounds were not healed. So what the relationship did for me was it just reopened those wounds that I had put in a nice, pretty box with a nice little bow and put it to the back of the shelf, be like, I'm gonna leave you back there. It really was the catalyst that had me ask myself, why am I feeling so depressed and sad? It's just a break, right? This is what I told myself. I've been like, girl, you've been through worse than this. So why are you having this severe reaction? And that's when I realized like I was responding from the unhealed young girl version of myself that I never really addressed. And it was going through that process that I was able to come over the hump. And that's why when you asked me the question, Dr. Wright, of, what is the advice that I can give to women? For me, getting out of that depression stage and understanding where my response was coming from years and years of trauma that I had just kind of tucked away, I just took that time and realized I have to focus on the present in order to move forward. What is it that brings me joy? What is it that I'm passionate about? Who am I? Right. And that's the part where, for you, Dr. Guy, I can totally identify with being in that season and that chapter where you get to redefine, you get to brand yourself. Right. And so that's the process that I went through to be able to kind of get over to the other side. And so that resilience story, it goes like this. It's definitely not a here to here. It has its ups and its downs, but I think it's a muscle that every time something occurs, I get stronger by bringing myself into the present, right? Asking myself, is this coming from the traumatized version of myself or the healed and then deciding what do I want to do with that.
Right. I think the process. Yeah, I think you talk much about the process, and I think the process is important. For each person to identify, and that process might be different for each individual, depending on who they are, and depending on the trauma they may have experienced. But I think it's imperative that people stop, right, and acknowledge. Oftentimes when we're going through our hurt, because I remember the little hurt I had, girl, it was hurtful. It was very hurtful. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, God, I'm gonna pack up my whole bag and I'm gonna move across the country and I'm gone.
Right.
And I'm gonna go and live a crazy life over there because I'm so hurt and I just want to show this and I want to show that. But I'm a woman of faith and I'm a woman of prayer. And so I prayed about what it is that I wanted to do. God, yes, I'm hurting, but what do you want me to do in this moment? Do I run away from it? Or do I face the issues and then create a process to get me through it? And I am so glad I stayed. I'm so glad that I feel the hurt. Now, it wasn't nice. It wasn't pretty. And I didn't want to feel it. But I allowed myself to feel the hurt because within the hurt is where I know start to emerge this new self. Within the hurt, I saw the shackles breaking, right? Within the hurt, I saw the immersion of the new Gail, right? The core of who Gail was not destroyed, right? But I was able to pull myself up through that process, break off what needed to be break off, and let God heal, right? And it's a process, you're right. It's a process that is not, it's not one that's complete. I think it's a long journey.
Right. It's a continuum.
You discover more as you go on.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a continuum, and like I said, it's just like a muscle. You get a little bit better each time, so the wound doesn't hit as hard, but you learn and you grow.
I love that there are three things: the traumatized self or the healed self, and then this idea of the inner child or your younger self and speaking to that younger self. And the younger you that maybe endured the trauma and or the younger you that kind of sticks with you throughout this whole journey, like this child stuff that's kind of popular right now. And I wonder, when you think about that inner child and the healing that's taking place now, it's actually a basic question. Was that healing before the entrepreneurial, or was that somewhere in the middle? Are they intertwined?
They're so intertwined. I think I've always had a spirit of entrepreneurship at a very young age. But I also think that my drive, sometimes I have to check that and I have to ask myself again, am I feeling like I need to do this? Do I need to have this success? Do I need to have this drive? Do I need to be busy? Do I need to do all of this? So I don't think about some of the other things that might be coming up in this moment, which is the traumatized version of self, right? Let me over excel at everything so that way I can kind of suppress how I'm really feeling. Or is this truly just something that I want to do and I want to be able to accomplish this during this human experience? Right. So they're intertwined in that way. I've always had this spirit in me, this entrepreneurial spirit. I'm a creative. And so for me, entrepreneurship is an art. I can envision and create 100 businesses in my mind, in my sleep. Like I can give away business ideas because it just comes to me naturally, right? And so it's something that I enjoy, but sometimes we do have to check even the things that we enjoy. How are we using it? Like, are we using it to heal, to grow, and to help others, or are we using it to cover up some wounds? And for me, I think from a young age, one of the things that I realized is that I was always that A student. I was always that A student. I was always the president of this club. I was always vice president of this club. I did the early admissions. I got all of these things that I was told I was supposed to do. And then I think at some point in my life, I realized I was naturally a good student, right? That was the good. But the concern that I realized as I was older is, why do I feel the need to do it? I should just want to do it. Why do I feel the need to do it? And what would happen if I don't pursue these things? What would happen if I didn't get an A? What would happen if I didn't decide to do the PhD, right? Would I feel less worthy because of that? So this is where those resilience conversations with self come in, is understanding the why. This is where the human behavior comes in. What motivates people? I don't want to be motivated by my trauma. I want to be motivated by my healing. And so that's where I'm at.
Now, I would have had experience in the past where my trauma motivated me to thrive. And I don't know that I regretted it. I don't know if I didn't have the trauma that I would have been this successful. Or the, there's a saying that the biggest testimonies in your life comes from the tests that you experience, right? The gifts, the entrepreneur, the creating, right? I think the way for me, so it's two-part for me, right? So trauma can also push you to become, because you probably are masking, but somehow it worked out for the good of everyone else, right? That's one way. Another way is that, so how can I use what has been so devastating to help somebody, to heal somebody, right? So maybe I would have gone through this and have the skills, or that I came through it on the other side, but can this help somebody become better, or save them from this particular issue, right? So I think it's kind of like twofold, right? It can drive you to become better, to do better, because without the trauma, you probably wouldn't be, right? But as you're here and in the process, now you're in the trenches, so now how can I use this now? So you're not driving me, but how can I use what I know? How can the pain become something else important?
Absolutely. And I think that is the resilience, right? So like, as I'm looking at the definition of resilience now, it's a process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. I think that's where that internal resilience comes, because we can't escape challenges in life. That's part of the human experience, right? And so the sooner that we accept it, the stronger our resilience muscle can become, because then we just say, okay, we know that we're going to face challenges. Now we don't want to run to challenges, right? So however we can be proactive in navigating that, we can. But for the things that we can't navigate, understanding that, okay, this is a season of, like you said, the testimony. So now what I want to do with that. And I think that is what kind of defines or measures resilience by person, right? I can't measure someone else's resilience, but I think looking at self, and you want to understand, okay, how resilient am I? How many challenges in life have I been able to transform that into, right? Did I allow the challenge over me, or did I take over the challenge? And that you can always take a situation that may not be good and transform it for something that is beneficial.
Dr. Wright, it was last week we were talking, in that phrase, you mentioned it, Khnuma, Dr. S, is when you say that, all right, that challenges are going to come. We're going to experience trouble, you say. But why wait till the trouble comes to prepare ourselves to navigate the trouble? Can we prepare ourselves? You said that, Michael. You want to talk more on that?
Yeah, it's as you both were talking through that, my favorite Bible verse comes to mind. It's to sound like I'm, to stand up against any pastor that Dr. Gail is going to bring onto the
Next week.
Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for the good.
Yeah,
love the Lord and are the called according to His purpose.
Right.
And the biggest thing there is that things don't work out because God ordains it to work out. Things don't work out because it was supposed to work out. Things work out because we have been given something special within us. And so there's a little tweak on the conversation you guys were just having. Yeah. It's the stuff doesn't need the trauma to come out. It's already there.
Right.
And then we are blessed with in that resilience that we don't allow that trauma, that life circumstance, that challenge to take us out of the game. I mean, you said it earlier, Dr. Gail. You said, I decided I wanted to run away. I wanted to give up. And I can tell you, it's almost daily. It's probably weekly now. But I still envision like just going out to the woods and like living in a tree stump.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I just had that conversation today.
Right? I literally pass by. I'm in LA passing by homeless people, and I'm like, man, his life looked good.
Okay.
Simple. Right? People who found like they carved a space underneath here, and they put a board up here for a wall. I'm like, that is look. No,
those are regular thoughts in my head daily. Listen.
Right? Nobody bothering it. Like the police. It just looks. But there's that voice as well that says, no, you're not finished. No, there's this that you can do. I love Dr. Khnuma, the idea of the artistry, the recognition of being a creative.
Yeah.
I'll kind of give you a point to jump off of with this phrase.
Yeah.
Someone wanted to write my biography. I'm a writer. I support writers, but someone came to me and said, I want to write your biography. So let's have a couple of interviews. And one of the things that was apparent when she reflected on what I was talking about, the phrase kept coming up. It was up to me.
Yeah.
That fits the resilience, but also in particular the creative that you're talking about. So can you kind of map that for people who may not have tapped into their creative side? Maybe that's not even there, but I think it's somehow tied to the resilience.
Yeah.
How is that resilience a result of or connected to
the creativity? Well, for one, I think everyone has it inside, right? Much to what you said in terms of what is our internal toolbox? What do we use to navigate, right? And to push through the challenges. It's not something outside of us. It's always there. We just have to tap into it. Like this is part of our human journey, is to be able to tap into our inner strength. And it's usually through the challenges that we're able to, by no choice, right? Be able to discover it. And then it's in the reflection that we can say, my goodness, I got through this. So I think it's much the same with creativity. We all have some level of creativity in us, right? For goodness sakes, in the beginning, God created. We have been created through creativity. So let's just start there. We are a product of creativity, and therefore creativity is within us. So it is in living and in reflecting that we can have a better understanding of what am I creating, whether it is creating an energy, whether it is creating spaces, whether it's creating relationship, whether it's creating a business, whether it's creating a solution. We are constantly creating without even saying a word. If I step into a room and I come in and I have created. You smile back. Hello. Did I not just create something? So
You
we,
did, and it was catchy. I caught it.
yes,
Mhm.
right. So I think we just have to reflect on or have the understanding that everything is a creation from energy in itself is creating. And so for us, I think for those who may feel a little out of touch with it or may not be sure, well, how am I creative? Understanding self and going back to that self love, like, how am I different? Well, every cell in your body already makes you different because there's no duplicate of you. So, like I said, you come into this world as a product of creation, and your very cells, your body, your spirit, there's no other like it. And so there is something very special and unique that every individual brings to this human experience. We just gotta be in touch with what that is. And sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes time.
Dr. K, how do we navigate that with people
Mhm.
who um, are not whole? They're still healing, and somehow, whatever you have that seems to be creative to you, and you want to own your authentic truth, it might
Yeah.
not carry over so much with someone else. And so, instead of that person see you in the truth that you're giving, right?
Mhm.
It's a condemnation, or it's boy, I don't know who she thinks she is,
Yeah.
or and it takes real courage to be what, to do what, right? To own your space
Yeah.
without feeling condemned. So how do one maintain that? How do you
I'm
Mm,
going to jump in because
this
I
space?
don't I want you to reflect on my answer, Dr. Khnuma.
yes.
The answer is forget them. Stop dealing with the people who don't see you and only focus on the people who love and appreciate you and
Yes.
think you're super awesome. What
Yes.
do you say to that?
That that part
Okay.
100, because that's what I was gonna say. You know,
Mhm.
but and it's, I know this seems redundant, but it comes back to self. You have to be comfortable or get to the place where
Confident,
you are comfortable in your own
confident,
skin,
and confident.
such that the external environment does not
Mhm.
dictate who you
Mhm.
are and does not define who you
Who
become.
you are.
You know what I'm saying?
But
And
you know the true nature of that, to Dr. K, is
yeah,
that when you are confident in who you are, it doesn't
yeah,
matter who would say what or who would do what, eh? But when you're
right,
confident, when you own your space, you people
correct.
cannot help but to own your space, which be like, okay, you know what, this is how Gail is, and that's Gail. So we just you don't have to either love Gail or just leave Gail by the side, and it's
Right,
okay because you don't want to be loved by everyone. I mean, love is good, but everyone
yeah,
is not going to love you the way you need to be loved, right? But if you
right,
don't know your love, if you don't
right.
know how to hold you, you're
Yes,
going to be subject to someone's ridicule and
yes,
their acceptance of you. So you're
right,
right. It is the confident. It is the comfort. Is the love that you give yourself. There you
yes,
go. Like Dr. Rose said, I don't give two who
right,
don't, right?
right.
Because you will attract the people who needs to come to you.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what you were saying, Dr. Wright, in terms of, you know, your question with how does creativity lend itself to resilience? I think when you understand what you bring to the table, you
Mhm.
also understand that everything you put down is not for everybody to pick up. It's okay. They can leave it there because it's going to work in the same way. There are going to be things that other people are going to bring to me that may not resonate with me in this chapter, and they got to be okay with that.
With that.
So I also have to be okay with, okay, not everybody wants to, you know, be a part of girlfriendism. That's okay. You
You
know,
know,
for the ones for whom it is for, that is whom it is for,
you
right?
know.
So we have to be comfortable though in ourselves and knowing that what we have to offer is may not be for everybody, but that is okay. This is my gift. This is why I'm on this journey, right? To
Mhm.
be able to spread the word. Same thing with every apostle you've ever heard of from Jesus Christ himself. You know, you spread the word and whoever pick it up, pick it up. You know what I'm saying? But
That's right. Drop the seed. You drop
against
the
the
seed.
word, it didn't stop him
Mhm.
from spreading his message. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
we cannot be we cannot feel like our identity is tied to other
Somebody
people's
else said.
perspective of us. And when we
That's
are
right.
standing firm in who we are and we understand the gifts and the value that we bring, we're going
Yeah.
to be okay with, okay, you know what I'm saying? That's fine. You don't have to pick up what I'm putting down. I got it. I got the assignment, so I'm good.
With that thought, Dr. Wade, I think we need to get into our segment, the healing part, the health and healing part of it.
Yes. let's take a break first. We got to pay the bills, so let's
right.
get a break in. And you'll love. Did you like that intro? Did you?
Yes.
You see
I
that?
love it. I go, oh my God, he make it spoofy. We growing. We coming famous. They gonna find us. Great. I love it. You did well. Thank you so
All right,
much.
let's take a break, and we're coming back with promoting health. So
Cool.
At Mom Media Group, we often say our tagline, when you succeed, we succeed. But what does that mean practically? I think this is a good way for you to understand the service stream of Mom Media Group and the various things we call soup to nuts that we can help you with. We have boiled this down into 5 M's: make, map, manage, multiply, and maintain. So think about the life cycle of your product and your business, and think about how you might best complete the goal of increasing your revenue or creating revenue streams.
and we're back. So
that was your voice, Dr. Wright, wasn't it?
That's it.
I caught that.
I figured a little bit of animation would be cool. So
yes.
Yeah. But definitely doing some things here. And I wanted people to kind of know what's going on. So anyway.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. I'm so pleased. Oh, we look nice. We look very nice. Did you like it, Dr. K?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Keep going. So let's get into this idea of promoting health. I don't know if you had something you really want to get into, Dr. Gail. I'll let you go with the thought you had.
About health? Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're talking about he do this all the time. I love it. So we talked about trauma, and you did very well in laying out the foundation. We understood what you may have experienced that was traumatic, but how you turn that into entrepreneurship or even health. That's we're talking now, right? So you created spaces for people to feel safe, people to express themselves. Now we move from that stage to this stage. What does health look like to you? With the spaces that you have created, with the people that are actually learning and gleaning in those spaces.
I love that because that's the big thing. That's a buzzword right now, creating space, but that's been your thing from the beginning.
It has. It really has.
The multiple spaces that you've created and how they work together, and yet they're separate in their own right. Yeah, great question.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's how Girlfriendism International came to be, honestly, with all of its branches, right? Because we started off with the boutiques, and that is the place where I was creating space, right? As we say, for women to just come together and to be relaxed and not have pressure on them to show up any particular way. We're just chilling over fashion. We're having a good time. So, I created this space, and I say it in the sense of, I didn't just have a boutique. I intentionally hosted different events, right? Featuring different women, promoting their products and their creation. So I could be very intentional about what kind of space I wanted. And in that intentionality, we created a vibe, right? That spilled over, right? Run it over into what are now these other branches. So of course, when we think about health, people usually think about the physical aspect. So we do have the fitness piece. I think even in the way that I communicate about fitness, it is very different from maybe the traditional way, because I'm very passionate about healing through movement. So you hear me talk about fitness, it's not necessarily because I want you to be able to, lift up 300 and 400 and 500 in the dumbbell competition. No, it is being able to move as community, because that does not move is dead, right? So movement represents life, but also to be able to do it as a community. And so health for me, it's partly that individual what do I need as a person, mentally, physically, but it's also very collectivistic in the sense of creating community, because people need people to be healthy. So I know sometimes in our society today, people be acting like, I don't need nobody, I could do it by myself. Lies. People need people. That is why this human experience together. And so health is very holistic for me, from the way that we present ourselves with fashion, to our movement with the fitness, to traveling even to different places and having an understanding of different cultures, different ways of life, right? So you shift your lens from what we're typically to what we create with business and entrepreneurship. It is both individual and collective to create that holistic experience. That's what health for me is, holistic.
I absolutely agree with your sentiment that health is movement, and to move from one space or comfort zone to put themselves in another space, to learn another culture, to learn about other people, do other things. Girl, I couldn't move my waist when I was with Aya last year. Understand? And so it is healing. It is healing to share what you have, and to share what you have with other people as well, right? So yeah, I am loving that. Great. Dr. Wright,
let me ask the question that is the reason I was so excited about having you on tonight.
Ooh.
Everyone thinks I have a conception. It's called the faith levels. And it's 0 to 7.
Yes.
And most people are on level 2. Level 2 is kind of like attending to faith because it seems to work sometimes. And level 7 is, I call it godlike, but that's kind of uncomfortable to some people. The idea of it is, it's not about having it all together, but it's recognizing your ability to create in different spaces.
Yes.
And promote the health in those spaces. And then our final segment is the healing. And I really think physically affects healing. That's level 6. I want to know what level you're at in your own mind. I believe that will free a lot of people up from thinking small. So what's your level?
You know what? I would say honestly between 6 and 7. And why I would say 6 is because I always leave room for improvement. And I think I've recently felt comfortable getting to that 6. I think if you had asked me maybe a year ago, I may have said a 4 or a 5. I think these days I've been honoring the God in me, and I understand that God works through all of us. And so therefore I am definitely between a 6 and a 7, because I am embracing that. I'm embracing the gift. I'm understanding the impact that I have, just as everyone else has impact once they discover how they create with that impact, how they are able to multiply that impact when they share their gift. So a lot of people have this gift, but they don't share it. So that's where we're kind of at the 4 and the 5. And that's kind of where I was before. I think I was in a place where I was playing it safe, but I'm definitely coming out my shell, honey. I'm embracing the community, and I'm like, yes, let's get this assignment, because we got people to impact. We got people to help. We got, you know what I'm saying? I'm at a 6. I definitely have room to grow, but I really am understanding how God comes through me in the work that I do.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. It's one of the things that I challenge all of my clients in is that moment. You're playing small. I mean, this is Marianne Williamson said it. You're playing small doesn't serve the world. And it's this big thing, like you are exemplifying in the work that you do. People are waiting.
Yeah.
I mean, we had I think it was Michelle. Was that Michelle last week?
Tombo.
Tears.
Fabulous.
Right? And then she started in tears, and Gail is welling up, and she's like, the retreat was all this. And I'm like, who is this lady who's putting these retreats? And then they're like,
we talk about you, girl.
I'm like, well, see, it's only one out there.
Yes. Yes, but that is the power of sharing and the collective, right? That is when that that healing starts to be infectious in a good way is only when we share it. Our gifts are only gifts when we share it, right? Like you have holiday exchange, nobody has received the gift until you've given it to them. And so we have to be able to push through that that feeling of discomfort, or like you said, Dr. Wright, that playing small, and step into our greatness and our understanding so we can get to that 6 to that 7, right? Absolutely.
And can I also mention that so the God that is within us and the relationship we have, or the level that we all are not at the level, but whatever level we find ourselves, we ought to be okay with that level. I want to say okay, not that there's not room for improvement or growth, right?
Yes.
But my relationship with the Lord could never be yours, or with God could never be yours, right? It's an individual journey, and too often we want to mix it. And this is where, and I'm going to go off on a little tangent for a little bit. This is where religion get messy, because we adhere to the do's, to don't, do. And if you don't look uniform, if you don't do what is expected of you, as if you don't have a relationship with the Lord, you understand? Or that the God can't speak with you or within you because you wear earring and put on lipstick, right? Or that if I have my long hair and I put on my long skirts, or I do certain practices, that I'm the better Christian, right? Because people could see the external work, but no one knows the relationship with God, and we judge each other on that. But how would they see it? They see it in spite of what others say. They see it how you perform, the love you give, the way God elevates you, because you have a relationship with God, right? So we all have our own relationship with God. Don't compare, don't judge. Just be confident and comfortable in the space you're in, and allow yourself to grow with the God that you are.
And that's my whole point. I think you, in that, you free a lot of people up by that story of the 5 to the 6. That is promoting health for people, is really helping them to recognize that you're missing, and you're doing that missing on purpose.
Right.
And then what you're saying, you're adding in, Dr. Gail, this idea that your journey is your journey, but also the opportunity doesn't have to make sense to other people.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Khnuma, what's that thing for you? Like when you get up in the morning, I want to know, because people don't feel like they have it in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you get yourself started with that health in the morning to kind of remind yourself of where you are?
Gratitude. Honestly, I wake up, my eyes are open. Thank you. Another day. So many people don't get that opportunity. And as long as we are having that opportunity, it is an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to impact. It's an opportunity to make change, right? It's an opportunity to bear witness to life and to speak life. So I think starting the day with that, it doesn't mean that the challenges aren't going to come throughout the day and those stumbling blocks. But when we start with gratitude, for me, it just sets the tone of my why. Like, I get to have another shot at this human experience. And no matter what my yesterday looked like, I get another chance today, you know? And so it starts with that mind, that mind conversation, that spirit conversation first thing. And then, of course, after that, it's like getting into the movement. Because again, emotions got to be able to move somewhere. And I think for people who may not start that day feeling on a high, right? Movement is something that, again, like I said, I do it to heal. I do it to move and process emotions, because we know what it does for our mind-body connection. So in that order, the gratitude, spirit, mind, body. That's how I start my day.
And that's the healed side. That's the side that is healed, because the side that is healed wants to be in a space that promotes joy from within, a peace, right? Doesn't say that the trials are not going to come, but because you are healed, or is healing, or in that process of healing, right? You're able to understand, you're able to give, to accept, and say, praise God, give gratitude, right? Nicely said. Yes, that's right.
So there's the elephant in the room that is the making money out of this idea. And I know you work with these folks, you talk with these folks, the women who come to you, they're starting businesses, they're doing things, and they're hoping for the level of success, and let's not kick to the curb, girl, and you found a man in the midst of it.
No, the man found her in the midst of it.
Is that how it works? Look,
yeah, that's how it works.
Look, that's what they trying to figure out now.
Yes.
How do I put myself in that space? So all of that success, I think what you're starting to say in terms of what health looks like is this healed process, but you're putting in these elements of gratitude, mind, body, soul in that space, and you start attracting these things. Is that the way it works?
It's the way that it's worked for me, and bringing it back to how do I feel, right? Allowing my emotions to be a prophet in a sense, so I don't get stuck on my emotions. I try to be very careful about not getting stuck on an emotion. Emotion, right? It's an emotion. It's meant to come through to inform you about something, and then it's going to keep it moving. So I seldom try to make decisions or react from a static state of emotion. I allow it to process. So for me, Dr. Wright, when you ask about like success, first of all, I feel that everyone has to define what success means to them, right? What does success mean to you? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Because you can have all the money in the world, all the education in the world, and you still feel lonely, you still feel depressed, you still feel anxious. So it's important to really understand, what does success look like for me and what does it feel like? So for me, I envision, before getting to this place and continuing to where I want to go, I envision like, what would I feel like at my highest, greatest self? What would that look like? What would the people around me be saying? What would they be doing? How would I feel internally? What would I be doing? I'm a family girl, so anything that allows me to spend time with those who I love. That is when I know, okay, I'm doing something right with my schedule and my timing, because I'm able to spend more time actually living and enjoying those who are in my space and those whom I love, as opposed to actually just doing. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if that's making sense, because I think in this society, we do a lot thinking that that's successul. I think one of the reasons that I'm getting from this 4 to the 6 is because I'm not doing as much. I'm being more, and I am being very intentional with my time, and I am reflecting on, when I feel lightest and most joyful, what am I doing, and how can I do more of that? Right. And even if it may contrast with what may look like typical success, which is a lot of times we glamorize the hustle and the bustle, and I got to do this. I ain't doing it no more. I have had my years of that. And at the end of the day, I am exhausted and I'm burnt out. Okay, correct. So I've moved and I'm moving and transitioning into this space where I can be more present and actually live. A lot of times life is passing us by in the process of just doing and being very intentional about actually living. And so, yeah, I think it is coming back to that self, to that reflecting. What is it that I want? How do I define success? How am I feeling with myself right now? How am I feeling with my environment and those who are around me? Maybe there's misalignment between your greater higher self and the people around you and how they may be talking and what they may be doing. There might be misalignment in that. So we might have to make some adjustments. What is it that I might be doing that might be attracting this? Be attracting this environment. So healing too, you got to check yourself a lot, and that's you got to hold yourself accountable a lot. But it is definitely a process of just reflecting, being intentional, and being present. and understanding self and what success means to you. And then going out and creating that, tapping into that inner creator so you can create that.
Hmm. Now, Dr. Wright, you see why Sean is the blessed man. Where Paul Sean there? I hope Sean just say all of that.
Look, I
Uh-huh.
already told him, I said, I'm going to be online with Dr. Guy and Dr. Wright tonight. I said, you had your turn. I get my turn. He said, okay.
Ooh. So you know what Dr. Wright said?
I'm
Oh,
going to see you after. Yes.
he said if he had somebody like that, he wasting time. What are you doing? I go, they engaged.
Right. I talked mess. I talked mess. 'Cause,
Yeah, yeah.
look,
He sure did.
I heard this. I mean, you got to imagine being
Yes.
3 weeks of podcast and the
Yes.
one name keeps coming up.
Oh my
And-
goodness.
And this guy is like in line. He in there. He in the bullpen. Like
Yes.
he getting his arm loose.
Yes.
Throwing these pitches.
Yes.
You better
I love me some him, y'all. I love me some him. I gotta say, I love
He's
me
a
some
good
him.
guy. He's a good
Yeah.
guy. He's my family. He comes from where well, at least he has his roots from where I come from.
Not from
He never
Vinci.
been- You know, he never been from Vinci, but that's all right. He have his
That's
roots
all right.
there.
We're gonna put him
And
there.
if he's a Williams, we're related girl. All these Vinci are related with family.
Correct. Well, listen, that's how I feel about Virgin Islands too. You know
We
what
all
I'm saying?
related.
Second, third,
Yeah.
fourth generation is somewhere in the bloodline.
Mhm.
Okay, different stock, same boat. That's what I say.
Right. We're gonna take another quick break, and we're almost out of time, but we got a break. All right. And we'll come back,
This is good conversation. Yes.
With
Yes.
30 seconds. And we're going to end with the healing, facilitating healing.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna end it on a sour note to a little bit, but we're gonna turn it to gratitude, I'm sure. So
Yes.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out.
Origins. I found myself intrigued by a curious meme that talked about moving on in the context of relationships. It presented 5 areas you would need to consider in your process of healing and moving forward after severing a relational tie. It applies even more to situations where you are left without a clear reason or a proper discussion and mutual decision-making process. Situations like ghosting in a relationship or a sudden firing from employment come to mind as examples. The problem in these situations is that the fortitude required to recover, find resilience, and heal has most likely been damaged by the experience over time. In seeking to build on the relationship, you necessarily let go of elements of your independence and autonomy. You relied on the relationship in a mutual state of encouragement and community. Now, you are required to be mentally healthy even while grieving the loss and seeking to find yourself again in a world without the relationship. The definition of self is difficult enough compounded by the grief that often interrupts your process. The other party has completely checked out. This leaves no opportunity for you to work through your despair, questions, or any anchors that allow you to cognitively process the loss. The needs and traits. Over the next few lessons, I will be expounding on the tenets presented. In each of the sections, I want to talk about the emotional targets you have in the context of moving forward and the physical actions of moving forward.
That is really powerful.
Yeah, I was just gonna screenshot that because I had some thoughts on
Oh.
it.
So here's my question for you, Dr. Simmonds. That was deep.
That is so deep. I can
So here's
identify.
my question for you, Dr. Simmonds.
Yes.
How do you navigate losing them to find you? And would you say that losing them to find you happened during the trauma, or it was a space or in the space where you were healed enough to know having them was not, you were not able to find you?
Mm.
It's layered, I know it.
It is. It is. I'm listening to the question and I'm thinking, is it a losing them to find me, or is it a losing them and finding me? Right? Because I think that two things can be true at the same time.
So both. So I think, and I'm asking it, it's loaded.
Yeah.
I think that in order to find you, you can be so caught up with them.
Mhm.
In order to find you, you have to lose them, and them would be the negative, the negative spaces, the negative people, the negative or the overbearing work or whatever it is that it is them, right? We put them in that category.
Right.
So in order for you to be the healthy you have to let them go, right?
Yeah.
Now, there are some thems that are adding value to you that you may need to keep. But in keeping them, you may also need to know, how do I keep them, and how and what value do they add to me so that I can become the best me or find me, right? Or it's not a them that is draining. You understand? Or taking away from you.
I do. Because, well, environment is sometimes we become a product of our environment in some ways, and we have to be so aware of that, like how we are impacted by other people. But I think what's important to understand is that other people don't validate us, we validate us. And so sometimes you can be so clouded in a relationship. And this is why therapy is so good, and having a neutral outside perspective is so important, because sometimes when you're so intertwined in a relationship to the point where you lose yourself, you don't even see it until you're outside of it, till you're outside of that space. And I think that's, part of healing spaces is definitely just being in space with self. To be able to, like you said, reimagine yourself, to be able to redefine and re-understand, because sometimes when you are so clouded by another, you can lose yourself in that process. And so absolutely, I think that sometimes in losing someone, you gain yourself back. And when you're in a healthy relationship is when you don't have to lose anything to gain anything. Where you can both be your full, whole selves, then you're in a healthy relationship. I think the moment that you have to give up self, give up one thing to be the other, then this is when you have that conflict. And so the first bullet point, I'm still looking at that slide because there's so many things that resonated, where it talks about the closure that sometimes you cannot find closure from that person, so you have to create it, right? There goes that word, you have to create it for yourself. And I always say, when it comes to like relationship or grief and loss, that the more that we harp on something that is lost, the more suffering we create for ourselves. And we do have to give ourselves room and space and grace to be able to receive. But at some point, we also have to say, when do I return to self so I can stop?
And you let it go.
We can also be the contributor to our own grief and our pain by running through the past, which cannot change. But what we can change is today, right? We can contribute to today. And so that first point was definitely so powerful. And I think even to your point, Dr. Guy, in terms of the losing one to find yourself, sometimes you're not going to get that closure from that other side, but you can give yourself validating yourself, And that second point, what did that second point say? There was something else that was powerful. That second point, I feel like I want to go back to that too.
I should pull it up, but I can't.
You should.
That's what it's going to come back to me.
Those are really kind of those beginner discussions about this process of letting go. I think it really is a return back to yourself. I think that the title for tonight, and I see why people are excited about you as a person. It's that inspiration to create. That connect with the creator within all of us. And people say, exactly, yes, that's what I've been missing. That's I've got to tap back into. I got to know myself that I am a creator, and whatever it is I want to create, I can do it.
That's right. And I think, the second point, I think to that point, I think it was something along the lines of like, you're not going to be able to understand. Everything doesn't have an explanation. That is what I want to say.
That's what it is.
So not everything has an explanation. Yes. And I feel that we're not going to understand everything, but I'll tell you one thing that really helped me in my healing journey after my breakup, and I was trying to understand, right? That second point, like I need to just understand like why this person did this. Why did, why? And this is me creating my own suffering, right? Because that is an answer I may never have. So at some point I have to make the decision to focus on, well, what do you want to do about it? What do you want to do with your life? When, if I don't want to continue my own suffering, But I think what has helped me is I had to take a pause and realize that in this human experience, going to intersect with people, and sometimes God uses us to teach them a lesson, not always us a lesson. And so for me, I feel like the way that I was able to find peace with it was, this is painful for me, but I needed to be in this person's life for whatever lesson they need
The
to,
next journey.
and also a lesson for me, but it's not for me to understand it. That's part of their experience and part of their journey. But understanding that in this life, we're going to be in certain places and spaces and in the lives of people, not always for us to get what we think we're supposed to get from it, but it's actually for them to get something from it. And that is not for us to understand. That is part of their journey. What can I get from it, and how can I move forward and transform this experience? So for me, that was healing in a sense, like Khnuma, because I was getting in like in a space like the world revolves around me. I need to understand, why did this happen? And I was like, girl, shut up. That like this is both sides to me, right? And I was like, girl, you're not in a world by yourself. Everything does not revolve around you. And so maybe God was using you for that moment, for that other person needs to learn something from being in relationship with you. It's not all about you. And I was like, okay, you're right, Spirit. Okay, it's not all about me. Maybe there was a blessing there. There's something to learn there. And that's part of their journey. Now, what can I take from it that's a part of my journey? That I can understand and I can move forward with that. And that has brought me so much peace. I got to tell you.
Dr. K, can I tell you? Wait, my God, hold on. Let me just do a little piece. I promise you're gonna talk. You're gonna talk. But Dr. K, you do not understand how powerful. Like he would say, you just freed somebody. Somebody was like, praise God, hallelujah, moment came.
Amen.
But dude, so this is what we do. We are so caught up, and I think it's a bit. It's about the selfishness of it. It's our pride sometimes, and it's our ego, right?
Yeah.
I'm in this relationship, I did X, Y, Z. Why is it? But we must understand also too, right? Going back to Dr. Wright's point, all things work together for the good.
Correct.
Not only that, we're looking from people what they don't have to give. And then when they don't give us, we have a trepidation, right?
Yes.
Maybe like you said, maybe I was in that person's life to teach them a thing or two so they can get to point A to point B, and without you, they wouldn't have gotten there, right? God uses you. Release yourself. And honestly, this is what I had to tell myself through that journey. Gail, okay, fine, your ego is bruised. But listen, it's about for real. So what is it that you did to help whomever to get to where they need to go now? What lesson do you need to learn so that you don't repeat them, right? So I would ask the question, God, okay, I'm in it. I don't want to be in it. I don't know if you're really God right now. I don't know if I need to be talking to you and think, because I don't know what this is. But what lesson is in this for me to learn? Because I don't want to repeat it. I don't want to go through that pain again, right? So you named it, my sister.
And that's the liberation, right? Because if we make our pain about somebody else, then we can never free ourselves from it.
Right.
Take our power back when we take ownership of it and say, okay, well, how can I transform this? If we always leave our pain to somebody else, it's their fault, it's this, then we give them our power. We can take our power back and say just what you said. What can I take from this? What can I learn from this, right? And how can I transform this experience for good? Right? For my benefit. And so take your power back. Take your power back. It's okay to be accountable for
taking power back. I'm going to say something. So Dr. Wright, something happened this week. And I was walking somewhere, Dr. K, and I saw my ex and significant other, and it was the first time. This is on national TV. Yes, Lord, but it's the healing. I'm freeing somebody. And you know, you're going through your journey, but you don't know how you have healed or how well you're healed to experience something. And I have never seen him and her together since this thing had happened. And as I was walking, we were walking towards each other in each other's space, Dr. Wright. Don't you know? I looked up, I saw him, I said, good evening. And that good evening was a relief that came from within. There were no animosity, there were no grudges. I didn't want them dead. I didn't want them to go over the bank or to jump over the river. No. Listen, I was amazed to know what that was, but that had to only come through healing, right? And you know you're healed or you're healing when you don't wish anybody bad, right? Or you go, God, thank you for using me. I was never so happy. I was never so free. As if that would have taken off the 2 years or 3 years of the pain that I thought I had or I was feeling and released them to themselves. In fact, I walk away feeling a little bit sad. for both of them, right? And it's not I'm showing any shade. I'm not showing any shade. It's
Right.
just the relief you get when you surrender. And when you go through the healing process that you need to go through, God bring you tests. And that was a test to see, Gail, have you
Yeah.
really, are you really on that side for real? Do you really
Right.
still have something in your heart? No. I came home and said a prayer.
Yeah.
Mm,
And
that's beautiful.
and thank you for that. That is transparent and beautiful.
Yes.
It reminds me of really this theme that
Mm-hmm.
you've got so much more to do. You've got
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
not the but it's Dr. Khnuma, it's not the doing that is the solution, it's the being in that
Mm-hmm.
space. I love
Yes.
that you have that perspective
Yes.
as well, because
Yes.
it's our perspective. I feel like you got it from
Yes.
me. Anyway, the point is that it's the being
Yes.
in that space. And then what do you create out of that? And I
Mm-hmm.
think this show is a testament to
Right.
that, Dr. Gail. I mean, you're bringing some people that are touching me to this stage, and this is one of your creations out of the types of things that you really feel passionate about. That creativity that comes from that, I think, is just really
Yes.
beautiful. And if you're okay, Dr. Gail, Dr. Simmonds, what is that last word of creativity in that space for all these people who are a little bit hesitant? Not
Mm.
not the and don't take this moment to just promote me and say Dr. Wright is one of those people who can help you do that and
Yeah,
get to
we're not
that.
gonna do that. Although you
Don't
can
do
do
that.
that.
You do enough of that.
I love it.
What's
Oh, I love it. I love it.
place
You're
to get them
awesome.
out of the it costs too much or it takes too long or I'm not good enough. But what do you say to get them into that space?
You wanna go for it, Dr. K? Okay, so it's what we've been
Oh
saying all along.
man. You go for it, Dr. Guy, and then I'm gonna come to
Okay,
you.
so it's what we've been saying all along, and I think in the beginning of it is this phenomenon of self love. I think once you understand who you are,
Mm-hmm.
you're understanding your purpose, and your purpose is not something that you live into words. Your purpose is wherever you find yourself, in whatever situation you find yourself.
Yeah.
If you are a mama, that's your purpose for that time. If you are a business person, that's your purpose. If you are a teacher, that's your purpose. We don't live for our to catch our purpose. Now we've been living the whole time. We've been living our purpose. So I think it is nestled in knowing who you are, knowing the space you're in, living your purpose for spite,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you can't do none of those things. Healing wouldn't
That's
come.
right.
You will find yourself in a rut. So it's self-love and is knowing the purpose, the space that you're in at this particular time, the season. This is my season, this is my
Yes.
purpose, is how God has chosen me for this time. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. I think I want to add on to that. So, really re emphasizing that self love. And I think for people who may look at this and they're like, yeah, I hear the self love, but I don't really know, like, what does that mean? What is that? This is what I want you to know. The qualities that you admire in other people, you wouldn't recognize it if you didn't already have it within you. So
Mm.
you can start with understanding that the people you look up to, that you're thinking, man, I would love to be like them. Man, I would love that success. You can
Mhm.
see it because they are mirroring what is already
Yeah.
in you. So if you are unsure about what self love is, what it feels like, think about the
Mhm.
people who inspire you and recognize that they are
Mhm.
just mirroring for you the
Mhm.
gift that's inside. And
Mhm.
now that you can confirm that I'm seeing this because it's within me. Now,
Mhm.
what do you want to do with that? Now, what do you
Nice.
and so that is why it is so important, right? To
Mhm.
guard your environment, to surround yourself with people who inspire you. Because if you are struggling on that
Mhm.
self-love journey, what you're
Mhm.
gravitated to and the people who inspire you, they're telling you about yourself and what's already
Mhm.
you. So know that you already have what it takes to
Mhm.
grow, to heal,
Mhm.
to love, and to
Mhm.
be your seven. Yes.
Love it. That's powerful. And one last before Michael say his thing. I think part of that self-love journey as well is understanding and accepting the crap about yourself, right?
Yes.
So don't push it to the side, right? Own it,
Yes.
fix it, work on it so that you can get to the other side. Understanding and owning the crap. That's part of self-love.
That's
Okay.
right. Give yourself grace. Give
Mhm.
yourself.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for another great episode,
Wait,
Dr.
before we go now, before we go, what is yours, Dr. Wright?
Yes. What's yours, Dr. Bright?
It's written in multiple books. They need to go and get, but no, it really is. The only piece I would add, if I were to add to what is already a masterpiece, it would be happiness. People don't, and you actually did talk about it, Dr. Simmonds. The
Yes.
happiness, when you figure out what it means to you, you talked about success.
Yes.
And I talk about happiness. You gotta recognize where joy is.
Yes.
That joy doesn't respond to the ups and downs. Ups and downs, that's called life.
Yes.
So find your happiness, and
Yes.
that's in the other pieces that we're talking about. How you love yourself, what you're creating, the passion that you bring to the table. That is happiness. Like you said, Dr. Gail, quit trying to find purpose out there somewhere.
That is within.
I'm trying to find happiness.
Mhm.
Happiness is right here in what you're doing
Right now.
Now discover that. Like
Yeah.
it may be under a rock or behind the couch, but it's here already.
In your bag.
Right. Definitely.
This
Love
is great. Dr. K, listen, one last word. So give the last word. Tell us about what you do. We already said it, where we could find you, how we could get to your stores, because you have some fabulous things, and your last words for us.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just first of all want to thank both of you for having me. I want to thank all of the girlfriends and the boyfriends who brought me into the space before I was even in the space. When you talk about community, right? And the importance of just being around people who love you and uplift you, I really feel like I experienced that. And so I'm grateful, because when I experience it, then I can share that out tenfold. So I am truly grateful. Thank you for having me. For anyone looking at this, I'm, Miss Girlfriendism International. That's me. So www.girlfriendism.com. I always say, never mind the letters before or after the name. I'm just your girlfriend, Dr. K. Okay, I'm approachable. We could talk. I'm living this human journey just like you. There probably isn't anything that you have experienced or seen or touched that I have not either. What we do with those experiences is what's going to determine that outcome. So, I'm your girlfriend. Thank you so much for having me. Do stay in touch. Girlfriendism.com. You could definitely reach me there. And of course, at my girlfriend's closet when we reopen on St. Croix, and we're open now on St. Thomas. Thank you all.
Don't leave. So we'll be backstage. So I just want to thank you openly and tell the world, see why we had to have this fabulous woman on. And Sean, you're not a lucky man. You're a blessed man. I just want you to I want to thank you for being here, for sharing with us, for being that light that you are. And she really is a true light. So what you see is what you get all the time, right? So I want to continue to encourage you to be that light. Be the best light you can be. Don't worry about being the light for everybody. Just be the light. It will be wherever it needs to be, right? May God bless you in all that you do. And I love you, my sister. You're awesome.
I love you
Good
too.
to have you.
Thank
Don't
you.
go stay. We're going to be talking backstage so people don't